Okay, call the meeting back to order. Now we're going to go into the consent items pulled for discussion. And the first item was, 14A5, and that was pulled by Betsy Megas. So 14A5 is approval of the plans and specifications for the 2017 pavement surface treatment project. Yes.
I have a kind reply from Teresa O'Neill on another transportation-related issue, thanking me for being on top of our transportation in the city. I ride a bicycle, as most of you know, for about 3,000 miles per year, which is my commute. And so I am literally on top of our transportation system. So I certainly approve of pavement maintenance. I did want to point out that when we do pavement maintenance, it is an opportunity to install or repaint with bicycle facilities if they are designed at a relatively moderate additional cost, because you're repainting anyway. And I see in this set of documents that even certain corridors that are already listed in our 2009 bike plan don't appear to have any new bicycle provisions on the parts that are being redone. The other concern that I have here is if we don't make updates when we repave our streets, that it'll be, I don't know how often a given section of street gets slurry seal or gets repaved, but it could be, this is asphalt, and it could be another 10 years before we have an opportunity to do something about it. So I'm wondering, I have two questions. One is, are these kinds of things, I know we don't ask for public input about changing every light bulb, but are these kinds of things ever brought to our bicycle committee or any other, opportunity for the public to ring in? And my other question is, why, I see this in Santa Clara and I don't seem to see it elsewhere. Why do we paint parking lanes like the ones on Lake Mill? I'm a little concerned that drivers might not know that those are parking lanes. So I end up riding to the left of them, and because there isn't space to ride to the right if there's anybody parked in them. Thank you.
City Manager, can you answer any of those offhand without getting information?
Yes, Madam Mayor. A couple things. Restriping of bike lanes. This is, by the way, we didn't call it annual slurry seal program because there's different kind of treatments, and that's why the name is pavement surface treatment. But it's essentially slurry sealing the street, so all the restriping is done the way it exists now. Mm-hmm. So that's one answer to the question. The other one is the parking lane. If there's a striping for the parking, then it's safer, it's more visible, people know where to ride the bike and where the separation is. And so generally, it's restriped back where it was under the current conditions. These are not redesign of the streets. However, our traffic engineer definitely looks at it, and if some modifications are needed, if we have room to lengthen, let's say, a left turn pocket or something, then we take the opportunity to do that. But generally speaking, it's just restriping of the existing, or repainting of the existing stripes.
What about bringing this back to the bicycle committee? What about?
This kind of project hasn't been brought back. If it's a new street, if it's on the bike plan or, that kind of thing, then it's brought to the
Right. So we like when we get some grant funding, because I think, we are almost totally reliant on grant money to do any of our bike ped improvements. And so we had planned, to do some other changes, but then we ended up not getting the grant funding money, so it wasn't done. One of the areas that the bike committee did want to do some changes was on Prune Ridge, but we all know that that's almost as controversial as the curfew at Levi Stadium. Don't say the road diet, so we are going to be starting soon the new revised bike plan. Is Betsy still? Oh, there, you're still here. So I need to talk to staff, but I had requested that the consultant, which we hired at a recent meeting, that the consultant come at the very beginning of the process to the bike committee, and we start looking at that and looking at where, the areas, so that, like I said, so the committee and the community is involved at the front end rather than responding at the back end. But that would be somewhere we could look at, where do we need to do that? And so we can get in there and get some of those Measure B funds as soon as possible to make some of those improvements, because like I said, unfortunately, we're so reliant on grant funding for bike ped in Santa Clara.
So was that a motion to move approval of these plans and
Oh,
specifications?
certainly, yes.
Thought I heard that. Okay. Members of the public, please come forward.
Real quick, maybe for something for the folks to consider, I mean, maybe with either the bike committee or something else, really to discover Vision Zero. I think some of the bike lanes even that are done, sometimes we can narrow the roadway. Sometimes the left-right turn is just really awkward, is way too wide. There's something called the deadly door zone bike lanes, which simply they're so close. Basically, when someone's riding right next to a car, you have three options. A, you stop in time, hopefully you do. Number two, you slam on the door and you fly over. Number three, you swing to the left and you might get run over. So, I mean, there are some fundamental things that we need to look at. And Vision Zero basically says, we started over in Sweden, they want to have zero traffic fatalities, car, bicyclist, pedestrian. Obviously, it's one of those aspirational goals that's never going to happen. But the whole point of Vision Zero is we know people make mistakes. We make mistakes every day, every minute of the day. But how do we make the traffic situation just simply more forgiving? When you tie that into where we're trying to make Santa Clara an age-friendly space, a lot of this stuff holistically ties in. Then you can tie it to safe routes to schools. And just a reminder, since I'm on MTC's Policy Advisory Council, between now and 2040, there are $540 million that are going to be available for active transportation, which means bike and pedestrian. The other thing to realize is something else that's going on. The more that we do for affordable housing and transit development plans and things like that, there's also a kicker called 2020, that there's $50 million up for grab for MTC funds as well. So they're trying to tie in experiments with housing and transportation. So to follow Councilmember O'Neill's comments, since all of this is grant fund based and we've had some staff that really comes up with great grants, let's do that. But let's also remember that we also hopefully can get control back on the Great America parking lot for the Hetch Hetchy Trail and start trying to get funds to use Hetch Hetchy Trail as a commute path as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, there's a motion to approve the plans and specifications. Or a second?
Second.
Second? Okay, lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously. The next item we have, Debbie, is 14A8. And that is adoption of a resolution of the City of Santa Clara, California, acting as a governing body of the successor agency to the City of Santa Clara Redevelopment Agency, approving the mayor's appointments to the Oversight Board and establishing a procedure to fill Oversight Board vacancies. Question?
Yeah, the question was, the attachment that had that the City of Santa Clara had two people, which was actually incorrect. So I don't know where the assistant manager got the incorrect information from, but the actual, who is supposed to be on, consisting that oversight board is supposed to be the mayor, which is one member, and then the second mayor is a former RDA employee appointed by the mayor. So Assistant Mayor Caserta is not a former RDA employee, so he would not be the proper person to be appointed by the mayor. So I would contest that that's not the right person to be on that board. So I would ask that the mayor please appoint a different person in that position to be on the oversight board, because that's the incorrect appointment, and I don't know. And I don't remember, I don't have it in front of me right now, if you had even signed that particular document on there, or I don't remember seeing that you had even signed that document that was coming forward with that recommendation. So if you could revisit that and, correct it, because that's the wrong person to have on there and the wrong level of person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Manager?
Mayor, just for the clarification, and Ruth Chikara is here too, to add to this, the appointments are the mayor is actually the member and vice mayor is just the alternate to the mayor.
Right.
So you're not appointing the vice mayor as a second member, and then the director of finance or city manager appoints the second one, which we are suggesting is the director of finance position. So those are the two appointees. The vice mayor is the alternate to the mayor.
I thought we were actually going to look at something in the event the vice mayor is not able to make it, if we went down seniority or something. I thought that was the reason for this.
I believe that's in there, but
So that
Ruth can maybe answer that.
appointment based on
Yeah.
seniority.
Based
there
on
is a
seniority and
provision.
availability.
Yes.
Right, yes. Ruth, thanks.
Yes, good evening. Yes, you are correct. The way that the resolution is presented is to say that if the vice mayor for any reason is not available to act as an alternate for you, then the alternate appointment may be made based upon seniority, and it's outlined in the attached resolution.
Okay, because the meetings are held during the day, sometimes availability is not there, so.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, so is there a motion? Second? Oh, yes, please, come forward.
Sorry, just real quick, I'm sure you're going to say, no, you can't do it, but is there any possibility if you ever get a public, someone in the public domain that's not working for the city, that they could actually be on this as well, if I'm an oversight? I believe they have to be elected, correct, for this?
The city can't appoint somebody like that. I mean, the successor agency doesn't appoint anybody but these two.
That's what I thought.
So
Okay.
I don't know what the rules are on who can be on the oversight board from somebody else. There's other members of the oversight board that the successor agency does not appoint.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Yeah, we're only 2 of 7 members. Okay, lights on the motion. And that passes unanimously. Next item is 14A9. Deborah, you also pulled that, adoption of ordinance 1967, adding section 2.35.020, approval of plans, specifications, and designs to Chapter 2.35, Department of Public Works, Administration of Title II, Administration Personnel of the Code of the City of Santa Clara relating to delegation of authority regarding plans, specifications, and designs.
The only thing I didn't see when I was reading over it, and maybe I just got tired of reading it or missed it while I was reading it, is where can the public see what have they signed off and what has not come forth to the public that they have signed off that we haven't seen? So where's the check and balance of what they have passed?
City
Where's
manager?
the- Where's
Yes.
the oversight of this, what they've done and what they've seen and what they've signed off?
Sure. So, Mayor, the previous item that was pulled for discussion, the approval of plan specs, it's that type of thing that the governance committee looked at and the council approved. This is just to make it, make the appropriate changes in the code to allow the director of public works, or actually the city engineer in case of public works, and SVP, director or assistant director, to approve the plan specs. The checks and balance are, this is just plans and specs. Then the project is bid, and then it's brought to the council for the award. So it's not like the project is going out just with the approval. This is just to expedite the process and manage the agenda.
City attorney?
Yeah, and I would just like to add that all of these plans and specs are then publicly bid, so all the plans and specs are available for inspection by the public once the bid is put out there. And there's no reason why a member of the public couldn't comment on the plans and specs that are open for bid. That's part of the bidding process. And then again, when the bid comes for award to the council, then the public is also able to then comment on the project as well.
But before, we used to be able to see that something was coming forward because we could see this, so now we don't see it because this is not coming to us. Do we get to see it beforehand, or we only get to see it when it goes out as an RFP? I'm just trying to see, where does the public get to see this? Looks like the public loses some visibility.
Debbie,
here.
ask your question, please, and then I'm going to have them answer.
That's what I'm asking, is
know,
where do we
but-
get the visibility?
Okay. I think he explained it already.
No, he
So-
said we get the
Okay,
visibility when
Debbie,
we see the
Debbie,
RFP.
Debbie,
and I'm
Debbie,
just-
please. Rajiv's going to answer, and then we're going to vote. Thank you. Go
So,
ahead.
Mayor, this is one of those items where, when we were looking at the agenda to make it more efficient and better manageable. It went to the governance committee, and there were several recommendations, but the governance committee.
And this was one of those recommendations?
One of those recommendations that the council collectively approved, and this is just an ordinance just to make it happen or make it happen legally.
Thank you. Thank you.
But we lose visibility.
So I'll.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let me just weigh in
Teresa?
a little bit. So we were trying to look at some things I, had suggested, and Rajiv put together, he and the rest of his staff put together a list of items that are more routine. And it's not just that it goes on the consent calendar, it means that there has to be an agenda report prepared and all that. So in terms of the visibility, when, you're right, when they go to the point of being an RFP, people can comment. They also, like you look at our what we're planning to do when we put it in the capital improvement budget, you can kind of know what's going to happen. I mean, the thought was, to be honest with you, that most people, I'll speak for myself. When I read, when I would flip through those things specifying the size of a sewer pipe, I didn't really have much to say about that. I figure I'm not an engineer, and at some point I'm going to trust them. So we, in terms of trying to say where are we going to focus our time, the idea was that we would take some of the low-hanging fruit, like specifications for things like civil engineering type projects, and allow the city manager and the engineers and the various departments to approve those. And then when they go out for RFP, if there's some issue at that point, if there's some question with the specs, people can still make a comment at that time. That was the thinking. And as the city attorney, he pointed out that we couldn't just approve them, we had to go through this process, and we've been catching up by passing these resolutions to cover the ones that we had agreed on, and we're going to be continuing to do this over a period of months with some other items.
And it will expedite implementation. It saves about a month to 2 months in the process.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Second. Motion approved, second. Lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously. Next, we have unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Okay, seeing none. Next, we have items set for hearing. And the first is the adoption of the resolution overruling any protests or ordering the alternate method of levy a benefit assessment to be made applicable to the City of Santa Clara Parking Maintenance District, Franklin Square. I will be, thank you for all the reminders. I will be abstaining on this since I own a piece of building in the Franklin Mall. So I'm going to turn this over to the Vice Mayor.
And I too will be abstaining since my home is within 500 feet of the affected area.
City Clerk, you wanted to make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'll share with you that the election process for this increase was not necessary and that there is no increase. It is set as a stable rate. Therefore, there are no ballots to count. It is simply a pass-through. A motion from the council is appropriate.
It's a public hearing, so can we have it? No, it's okay. Can we have anyone from the public like to speak on this? Motion to close the public hearing?
So, second.
Okay. All those in favor? That passes with 2 abstentions, which is Mahan and Gilmore.
So noted.
Okay. Councilmember Davis, motion. Can I get a second, please? Second. Okay. That passes unanimously with the 2 abstentions, City Clerk.
As noted, thank you.
Okay.
I couldn't even get a piece of the birthday cupcakes for Councilmember Mahan. Thanks. Okay. The next item we have is the adoption of resolution overruling any other protests and ordering that the alternative method for the levy of special benefit assessment be made applicable to the Santa Clara Convention Center Complex Maintenance District Number 183, and approving, confirming, and adopting the director's report for fiscal year 2017-2018. City Clerk?
Yes, Mayor Gilmore, it's important to note that on both of these items, the Department of Public Works played a significant role with regards to the outreach and the content of the report. Of course, Gustavo Gomez is here to answer any questions that you may have on the content of the report. I'll let the council know that we've been provided by DPW the balance for the 3 voting partners with regards to this particular district. All 3 have voted in favor of the increase of going from $1,338,685 up to $1,488,685 this year, as was outlined. And as such, there are no protests to overrule. It would be appropriate to close the public hearing and approve this.
Is there any member of the public want to speak on this? Okay, motion to close the public hearing, a second? And that passes unanimously.
Second.
Motion second. And that also passes unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Clerk? Next item set for hearing is application 967 Warburton Avenue. Adoption of resolutions to adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program. Approve the rezone from light industrial ML to planned development PD to allow development of 4 new 2-story detached single-family residences, private street and site improvements, and retention of an existing 1-story single-family residence, and approve the tentative subdivision map to create 5 for-sale lots and 1 common interest lot subject to conditions. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As you mentioned, this is overall, there'll be 5 units, 4 new ones and 1 existing. And it has gone through the Planning Commission, but I'll invite Director of Community Development, Andrew Crabtree, to come up and share with us some of the minor tweaks that have been made to the conditions or whatever Planning Commission wanted. And there's 1 condition specifically that cannot be implemented.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council, Andrew Crabtree, Director of Community Development. The request in front of you is for a approval of mitigated negative declaration, mitigation monitoring reporting program, rezoning from a light industrial to planned development zoning, and a tentative subdivision map for a project located at 967 Warburton Avenue. Just a little bit of background. The site currently has 1 residence on the site. You can see there in the photo, and the rest of the site is basically a vacant lot. There are some outbuildings and so forth with the structure. Looking at the neighborhood, there's sort of a mix of single-family homes of different types in that neighborhood, some developments that are shared driveway types, others that are just fronting onto the street. The site immediately adjacent to the east was recently approved for a planned development zoning, also for a new single-family residential subdivision. This project, the general plan designation is very low-density residential. As noted in the staff report, the proposed number of units would be 10.23 dwelling units per acre, which is above the 10 unit per acre range. But there's a policy in the general plan that says for smaller lots like this one, you can move up and down a density range. So the project was found to be consistent with the general plan. This is sort of a depiction of the development, what it would look like. You see lots 1 through 6 numbered there. Lot 6 is the existing residence that would remain essentially where it is, with an addition of a garage. Lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 are new residences, and Lot 5 is the common driveway that would be shared by those residences. Just the one issue that was of concern was that of parking, and the Planning Commission, not part of the discussion, but in their final recommendation, included condition that lots 2 and 3 be provided with a parking slip in front of the garage, which you can see lots 1 and 4 would have. So that would add 2 more apron parking spaces for those units than what they would have otherwise. Staff does not support that request. The project as it is would exceed our parking standards, which require 2 covered spaces per unit plus 10% guest parking, so this project would exceed that standard. And so in looking at lots 2 and 3, to provide that parking slip in front of the garage would require the garage to be pushed back considerably into the backyard space and diminish that backyard. It would, to maintain the square footage, probably require 3-story houses at that location, or much smaller houses. And it would also create, potentially, at least in Lot 3, case there might be some issues with being able to back in and out of that garage space. So for those reasons, staff is bringing this forward with other conditions that the Planning Commission recommended incorporated into the project, but not this particular one. And we have communicated that back to the Planning Commission that we would be bringing it forward with a slightly different recommendation. And so with that, we're recommending the council adopt the environmental documents and approve the requested rezoning and tentative subdivision map. Available for questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Mahan?
I just want to comment that I think it was great the way you saved the historic Spanish-style home, and it's wonderful, and it's a great project. So the recommendations, as we have them printed here in our agenda, are just what you said without the additional parking pads
That's
on
correct.
the other units. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember O'Neill.
Director Crabtree, I'm trying to look, where are the guest spots on, I was looking at the,
Sure. Yeah, so if you look at the lot 5, where it's 5, just to the north, there's a zone where there's a couple of parking spaces provided that would just be general guest spaces for the project.
like where it says Zone 1 at the very top?
Yes.
Okay, those would be 2 slots up there.
Yes. And then, as noted, lots 1 and 4 would have the driveway apron spaces, and there's a limited amount of on-street parking.
Yeah, so 1 and 4, in effect, will have, there's room, they do have enough of a driveway to park another couple of cars, so
Correct.
it's only 2 and 3 that don't have, other than the 2 parking spaces in their garages, and they theoretically, hopefully, would use the guest spaces.
And one of the other planning commission recommendations was that there be requirements that that the garages be maintained, that they can park in them, not be storage, and that's
Yeah, we've been doing that
incorporated.
at architecture review, too.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Davis?
Okay, so now that you answered that question, so they're not going to use their garage, oh, sorry. You answered the question that they're not going to use their garages for storage, they're going to use their garages for cars. So would that almost be able to do like a tandem kind of parking for them in case they have guests come over? Because I know parking is a big issue, and we got a letter from somebody that lives on the street there, 1795 Main Street, and he was saying that he doesn't feel there is enough parking at all. So, and then I guess our planning commission said the same thing, but you're saying that you think there's enough?
Right. Well, I think that it's enough in that it meets or actually exceeds the city's parking standards for single-family development, which are 2 covered spaces and then basically 1 guest space per 10 units, or we round up, so 1 space in this case for 5. And then to the question about tandem, so lots 2 and 3 would have 2 2-car garages and no tandem, provided lots 1 and 4 would have, basically, you could consider it tandem. It's, it's a traditional.
Well, if push came to shove and somebody
development.
came over, they could get the cars in the garage and they can get cars behind,
That's
right?
correct, right.
No? Okay, all right. That's what I just wanted to know. Thanks.
Vice Mayor Caserta?
I'm just prepared to make a motion when appropriate, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Is the applicant here? Please come forward. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Greg Masalem. I'm the applicant, and we don't really have much to add from the staff report, but we did work with staff to save the house and add a garage on that property, as well as pavers for those driveways, and I think it's a good infill project. So if you can answer any questions or.
Councilmember Mahan, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to congratulate you. It's a great project, and I know it's you've gone above and beyond by saving that whole front lot and keeping the original house where it is, and I think it's going to be a great project.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, your motion, no question at this point
No,
from the
it's
applicant?
appropriate to make a motion.
Okay, thank you. No other questions? We're now going to go to the public. If there's any member of the public, please come forward.
Mr. Crabtree once again misrepresents what happened at the Planning Commission meeting. At the Planning Commission meeting, the staff did approve and recommend very strongly that they needed more parking. And the people that were at the meeting, including the Planning Commission, said there was not enough parking without adding the additional parking that they're now taking out, and that somebody is saying, I guess staff is now once again sticking up for the developer and not for the citizens of Santa Clara, as usual, in saying that they can't put the parking in, even though during the meeting I personally said, how are you going to call the area in front of parking number 2 a parking space? They said, oh no, there's plenty of room there. And I kept saying, that's not a parking space. They said, oh yes it is. So here they come back saying exactly what I said, that it's not a parking space. So instead of approving this, I really would like to see you send this back to the Planning Commission and have them rework this and add more parking. The neighborhood have said there's not enough parking on this project. Why do we keep approving projects? If this was in your neighborhood, you wouldn't want more people parking on your streets and clogging your neighborhood. So why are you going to do it to someone else? The Planning Commission said they needed more parking. And here we go again, doing it again. They said there wasn't enough, and there's not enough. So you're protecting the developer, you're not protecting the neighbors. The Planning Commission said it needed more. Staff said it needed more. Staff should not be sticking up for the developers again. Please get staff to work for the city and stop working
Thank you,
for the
Debbie.
developers. Thank
you.
you.
Any other member of the public?
Motion to close the public hearing, Madam Mayor.
The motion to close the public hearing, second. Lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously.
I enthusiastically want to adopt the resolution. Do I need to read all 3 out, City Attorney, or? Okay, I just realized it's a great infill project. You kept the Mission City preservation. I'm just really proud of the project. So that's my motion.
So that's the staff recommendation? All right.
Can I just make a comment?
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I believe that there is parking available on Warburton Avenue, and, you know, I'm not, from reading the report, it sounded like there wasn't a total agreement on, with, you know, on the parking, and there's 2 parking spaces. I know there's not a parking space in front of 2 or 3, but we are adding the 2. So I think also we are trying to get away from, if we keep adding more and more parking to projects, we just make them more and more expensive. And I mean, I think with Warburton Avenue being out there, you know, is Andrew still here? Oh, and there is parking available on Warburton, right? To me, I think that that's enough parking.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any other comments? Lights on the motion? And that passes unanimously. Okay. Next, reports for action, adoption of a resolution adopting a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Black Butte Bank erosion project in Tehama County, California. Direct the Director of Electric Utility or designee to file a notice of determination with the Tehama County Recorder's Office and State Clearinghouse, and delegate authority to the city manager to award the Public Works Project to 2416 Black Butte Re-Regulation Basin Erosion Repair Contract to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder, and to approve change orders up to a total aggregate amount of 10% of the original contract prices. City Manager?
Sure, Mayor. This property is owned by SVP, and there's a bank repair project which is required by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And the reason for these delegations is because we have a very short construction window. We cannot really follow our normal process of approving this and then preparing again plans specs. So that's why we are requesting that this authority be delegated to the city manager to award the project to get it done before the winter season. And Director Rockma is here for further questions if you have any.
Okay, Vice Mayor Caserta?
I'm so sorry.
Councilmember Mahan?
I was just prepared to make a motion to adopt.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council?
Get her done.
Members of the public? Okay, so what was the motion?
To adopt the resolution as
Okay.
presented.
Thank you, which is staff recommendation?
Yes.
And we have a second? Yes. All right, lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously. Okay, we did Stadium Authority. Okay, report of members and special committees. Vice Mayor Caserta?
I just want to say, last week it was a pleasure. We talked about Kansan Chu. He recognized many people in the district and 12 Santa Clarans. Just briefly, I want to say Alice Pivacek, Bob Bird, Bob Blake, Patricia Picard, Patricia Eldridge, Cheryl Lee, who works in Northside Library, Marls Lee, Noreen Carlson, Sudjan, myself, Melissa Yee, and Habir were recognized as community heroes. Way to go, Kansan, and way to go, Santa Clara.
Weren't you recognized as well? Yes. Yes, very good.
No,
No, congratulations.
no, it was pointing to you.
Congratulations. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to just say that the mayor and Councilmember Mahan and myself had the pleasure of attending the Ramadan celebration feast at the MCA on Saturday evening, and it was just, as always, very nice to be there and just be a part of this special time of year. So thank you for the invitation, and hopefully we'll be there again next year.
Just to remind everyone also, we have our Power of 10 workshop this Saturday at Locatelli Center at Santa Clara University. I believe it starts at 12:30. They're providing lunch, so we're going to start our placemaking in Mission Library, Senior Center, and City Hall as a pilot program here in Santa Clara. So hope to see you all on Saturday. Anyone else? Okay, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Very happy to share with you that the Hawk signals on El Camino, there are 4 locations, Morse, Alpine, Buchanan, and Harrison. Those have all been activated, so your staff continues to work towards pedestrian safety in the city. Next in line, of course, that's partnership with the Santa Clara University on Lafayette. That signal is going to come online soon. Additionally, as you know, we are also working on similar signals at Wilcox and Santa Clara schools. So staff is very actively engaged in implementing these projects, but these 4 have been activated. In fact, the acting assistant director, I had him walk El Camino across these just to make sure that he doesn't get hit.
I saw them today, and it took me by surprise. And the gentleman that I was driving with said, "What is that? What is that? I've never seen that before." So yes, they're up and they're working. Thank you very much for doing that. We appreciate getting those online. Okay, reports of action taken in closed session. I know, City Attorney, we're going to be trailing, but is there anything else you want to talk about?
There was no reportable action in closed session.
Okay, thank you. So that leads us to our adjournment, and I have 2 items to talk about. I'd like to adjourn this council meeting in memory of the following. First of all, the victims of the attack in London, England. We offer our heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of the individuals who lost their lives during the horrific terrorist attack in London, England on June 3rd, 2017. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, the injured, and their loved ones, and we stand in solidarity with the people of England. Also, the victims of the shooting in Orlando, Florida. We offer our heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of the individuals who lost their lives during the shooting in Orlando, Florida on June 5th, 2017. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims' families and their loved ones. Let us please have a moment of silence in memory of the victims who lost their lives during these tragic attacks. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming. We're adjourning to closed section. Adjourning to closed session.
Yeah.
We're not done yet. No, more fun. Fun to come.
You guys behave. Good meeting.
No. My pass.